Round like a circle in a spiral, like a wheel within a wheel, never ending or beginning, like the circles that you find in the windmills of your mind.
Visit StogieGeeks.com/Debonaire for a list of retailers who carry Debonaire cigars. Buy some today and get a little more Debonaire.
Welcome back to the Stogie Geeks Show, episode 209 for this Monday, November 14th, 2016. Will Cooper, I guess I'm in the Nomad Studios tonight because I told Fred I'd call it the Nomad Studio, but better known as Studio C in North Carolina. Mark and Riley are at the controls at the Villiger North America Studios in Rhode Island. Give those guys some love, man. These guys, I'm telling you, they're true professionals, and they do a tremendous job every week keeping the show going. So big. Yeah. And Tyler, I apologize. I did leave Tyler out. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, brothers.
And there's folks like Keith up there and just keep the studio moving, keep Paul organized, which is a full-time job. But we have also Tom Pearson of Commonwealth Cedar Spills. Happy to have him kind of pinch hitting. I'll actually be pinch hitting again in Atlanta this weekend at the Smooth Drawers radio show.
Nice.
So encourage folks to go to smoothdrawers.com. I'll be pinch hitting for Nick Cirrus, who's going to be in Cuba. So I'll be making the trip to Atlanta again. Yeah, that was a lot of fun doing radio.
Yeah, those guys are a little crazy. I mean, in a great way, but a little crazy. I had a blast with them down in Chattanooga at the Tweet Up. They were there, and it's a great. I mean, there's so many great shows out there, but they're big personalities, great guys.
They are. Their show is a cigar lifestyle show. They do trips to Cuba. Actually, I wasn't at the Chattanooga Tweet Up because I just couldn't logistically pull off going to Chattanooga and then getting into going to Cuba. They had a little more button down than me. So yeah. I mean, but they've become great friends of the show, and definitely doing radio, I'll just say, is a completely different animal than doing a podcast. There is a difference. And it may seem like to the end person it's the same, but doing radio, you have hard stops. So they do a tremendous production job as well down there in Atlanta. So I'll be in the ESPN studios. Also, Michael the Burner Turner. Did you get to meet Michael at Tweet Up?
Yeah, got to meet him. The guy has a sense of humor that is deranged on certain days as mine. After you've had 4 or 5 cigars in a day and you've got more nicotine and probably some caffeine in your body, just a blast. I mean, just a blast.
Michael, for folks who in the Southeast, folks in the Southeast probably know who Michael is. He is an NFL. He was a former NFL All-Pro running back. He started out his career backing up LaDainian Tomlinson with the Chargers. Then he signed with the Atlanta Falcons, and he had some really good years for the Falcons. One year he had 1,699 yards rushing, didn't get to 1,700, and we bust on him for that. And he led the league in touchdowns as well that year, including just demolishing the Carolina Panthers with 4 touchdowns in a game. And that's a big thing. But Michael's also a boutique smoker. I mean, he knows his boutiques. And it's kind of a good segue into this piece where we talk about boutiques in our Debonaire Ideal segment. Debonaire is a boutique brand. The Indian Motorcycles are a boutique brand.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to get into too much, Tom, what the definition is of boutique, because I think that's kind of a loaded question. There's different points of view. You can go anywhere from size of company. Jonathan Drew actually schooled me on it, talking about a cultural aspect, maybe acting more agile, and I think they've done a really good job. But my question, I guess I wanted to pose in this segment, Tom, why do we like, what has been the reason why we like boutique cigars? I have some thoughts on it. I don't know if I'll put you on the spot a little bit.
No, fair question. And and I think the reason we like boutiques as a cigar smoker, and I've been smoking 5 or 6 years now, started my own company about 5 years ago with the Cedar Spills. I like boutiques because to me they're just more interesting. And as we started, in the first half of the show talking with Fred Rui, who is, I would say, very much a boutique guy in the boutique space, that boutiques, they're not the big guys. They're not the global they're not the global conglomerates, the huge companies. They're the shops, the cigar makers, the folks that find a small to medium size of tobacco that the really big guys can't touch because there's not enough of that tobacco to make 1,000,000 cigars or 500,000 cigars. But maybe a boutique guy or gal, a cigar maker, can make 50,000 sticks, 100,000 sticks, or whatever that volume, that number, whether they box them or bundle. And because that tobacco is available to them in a quantity that works for them, they can do interesting blends and combinations that you're not going to see from I don't want to name names, but all the big names that we know, the huge ones, the guys that are headquartered in Europe, they're not going to touch that small pallet of tobacco and make something that they can only make. And maybe they do in very few exceptions, like they make the 200, 300 cigar box humidor for the prince of whatever or the king of whatever. But I think those small boutique guys go out of their way to find those tobaccos because they're working with a specific farm or a specific group of guys who have been sitting on that in a warehouse or in whatever farm. And they're like, here, well, I've had this for a while. Try it. Tell me what you think. So I think boutiques, again, however you want to define them, are just more interesting because of the tobaccos. And generally the cigar makers are, they're a little more approachable. At least they are to me. They seem to be more of the every guy, every gal out there because they're a small company. They're hustling all the time. Not to say the big guys aren't. It's just kind of it's an attitude. And, that's my 2 cents. Access to tobaccos that won't work for the bigger guys. And they're just a more available, perhaps is the word, approachable.
Yeah, it was interesting. I go back again to Jonathan Drew,
Mm-hmm.
who when I did an article trying to define a boutique, and it was a loaded question, and it opened up Pandora's box. And it was a good discussion. But Jonathan came back and he was talking about how boutiques in the heart, it's in the culture, it's in the people. And I'll say this: Drew Estate, they now are a subsidiary under a very big company like Swisher. And I know folks have thoughts on that, but I think they've tried to remain, I would say, as boutique as they can. They've done a lot of small batch releases. You look at some of the small batch releases they've done over the past few years. Some shop exclusives. Willie just did the run out of El Titan de Bronze. That's not going to be a big release. So I totally get, not only did he say that to me, he kind of proved it to me afterwards. Even after the Swisher acquisition, that he was able to do that.
And Jonathan's he's a real smart, savvy guy. I mean, I have this thing about guys and gals I've met who are from Brooklyn, New York. For some reason, when they get into business, they're ultra passionate. They seem to really, succeed and get it going. And I'm betting Jonathan, when they started having the discussion with Swisher or whomever, that part of it was they maintain creative control, and not just the tobacco, not the farming, and not the distribution, and all this, but the creative control, the bit of the marketing, the attitude, the who we hire and who we maintain under that, Drew Estate flag. And because, as you said, it is so much of who they are and what they are. And Jonathan is just, if anybody listen to this, if you've ever been to an event with Jonathan Drew, from the time the event starts till the time it ends, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, even 5 hours, he's there with everybody waiting in line. He shakes every hand, hands out cigars, takes pictures, and it just works. Now, I'm not saying the big guys don't do that, but I've been to enough cigar shows, from the big smokes, great smokes, the little tweet ups here and there, the small events in big cities. And sometimes you don't even get the big guy, you get a sales rep, and that's okay. I mean, that's fine because you can't be everywhere all the time. But, Jonathan is just one of those things, and he's just a force. And his guys have the same attitude, and they're all approachable, and he spends the time in line at the store, at the shop, at the event venue, making sure everybody gets a chance to say, hey, I like this, I didn't like this, this is what I'm going for, it's great to see you. And you can't fake that. You can't hire that. You can't merge and acquire a company and bring that into you. And I'm betting he's got that autonomy, because that's really, it had to be why Swisher bought him. He's been around, he's proven, he's out there, it's almost like a cult, but in the best possible way.
Yeah, and Jonathan, actually, when he had him on the show, he talked about the core competencies that they had that Swisher didn't have.
Yeah.
And and they were a bigger company. But you mentioned the approachability, and I'll say this from a media guy. I'm doing this. This is my 7th year. So I've been very, very fortunate. I have been able to build some connections with some of the bigger companies. It does take a lot longer. I can tell you that right now.
Oh, yeah.
To get but when you do start out with some of the boutiques, it is kind of like you get some of these bigger fish, smaller pond type of folks. They're very willing to kind of engage with you, and at the same time, they're bringing some very good products to market. I mean, they're bringing some very good products to market. We just had Fred on. Here's a guy, you can mention he had 47 facings right now, but I remember when he had just one line. I mean, 3 years ago, and what I love doing, we have some of these guys. I'm going to have Omar DeFrias on in a few weeks from Fratello.
Awesome.
These guys have they're slowly building, and they're growing. Guys like Omar has had to hire some other guys. Now he's quit his day job. Fred, has pretty much been a one-man show, but it has given, I think what it's created this conduit to consumers, to companies that we haven't seen in any. It's very rare you're going to see this in any other industry, but it's not just that they're putting out garbage, they're putting out good products that you're seeing too. They're working with good, there's good factory. Fred's working with some of the best factories in the world right now.
Oh yeah. He's working best farms.
Yeah. He's working with a guy like James Brown, a small factory, but he's also working with AJ Fernandez, one of the bigger factories in Nicaragua. And so I think that's something that I've looked at, and it's been very helpful having. And then we can get folks every week on the show, and sometimes we do have some of the bigger names. We always like having the bigger names, but we love having the small guys and just following them and learning from them. We've discovered some really good brands and over the years, so I think it's been fantastic. You and I go on the tweet up. We've gone several years in a row. We've had firsthand visibility to that.
Oh no, absolutely. And boutiques are, to me, they're oftentimes they're more interesting. I don't want to say much more interesting, because when I look at the bigger, and I'm talking the global conglomerate, the big organizations out there of cigar makers, I know what I'm getting. I know what to expect. They're consistent. I go to that and I get that. With the boutique guys, the price points are generally lower. It's arguable because, state taxes here in the U.S. are always different. Boxes or bundles or just sticks. But I get a variety. And generally, after I've known the cigar maker, or I've listened to your reviews and read your reviews, and you do the current, and then you do a follow-up review, which I think is why folks love you so much, Coop, because you're so consistent with the follow-up. But when the boutiques come out, with a boutique brand maker comes out with a new one, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to try that. And I get variety, I get difference, but I know that core competency is there. And I think the only real way you could define boutiques would have to be by sheer sales numbers, maybe, because if you're doing $1 bazillion, and that's not a real number, obviously, that tells you, you're not boutique, because boutique guys, I don't see boutiques spending a lot on print advertising and all the big magazines. Now, boutique guys do spend money in print. I see that, but I think we all know who are boutiques and who aren't, and it is one of those hard to define things. But it's it when you see it, it when you smoke it. And boutiques are just they're more fun, and there's more of them. Because for some reason, I'm a crazy guy trying to get people to use little wooden sticks to light, cigars. How crazy do you have to be to want to go into the cigar business, especially in the past year or two, knowing what the FDA was going on?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when you kind of pinch hit for us back in June, we had Riste from JSK Cigars.
JSK, absolutely,
and you hadn't smoked that, and I was kind of, Tom's gonna really like this cigar, and actually you ended up getting that cigar, and I was like, and we were very fortunate, and he's starting to take off as well. I mean, he's building a very nice following out there.
Absolutely, it's a solid stick. It's a to my palate, and everybody's palate's different, medium full, big flavor, and it kind of plays off Risty. I've never met him in person, but his personality and online, it just matches. What you see is what you get, and you can tell the quality and the passion is in the smoke. And I think that's a lot of it with boutiques. Otherwise, I mean, and as Fred alluded in the earlier half of the show, if you weren't passionate about it, with the cost and now the bureaucracy and the overhead and the government and the FDA regulations, why would you do this? There have got to be other easier things you could do, to as far as a business, get a franchise and do something else. It's crazy, but boutiques are just they're more fun, they're more interesting, maybe just more approachable.
Yeah, and that's not taking anything away either from some of the bigger companies, which they've done some great stuff as well. But it is a different model, so to speak.
Different attitude, as you said.
Exactly. So that's So I think that really what I wanted to kind of peruse on the Debonaire ideal, so to speak. So any other thoughts on that, Tom?
No, but I do think you may be the only guy with more Boveda. I look over your left shoulder, Boveda packs than even I have. I usually keep a few around, but you're stacked and packed back there. That's nice.
Yeah, I mean, we use Boveda for our storage at Stogie Geeks. Paul's actually built some cooladors. I have some now. Nice. I have a coolador. So we very much believe in the product as well. So
that's awesome.
It is a great product. They've been great supporters of ours as well. So with that, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come right back with hot topics on the recent happenings in the election. So stay tuned.